the general vibe of the press conference to me, and I think you probably got a good feel for it based on those clips, was nothing to see here. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Everything's under control. Don't worry about it, right? Some things that were kind of contradictory that we just discussed. He was adamant that he and Vrabel were on the same page and shared the same vision. Pay no attention to the statement from Amy Adams Strunk just hours ago saying they fired Vrabel because he was not compatible with their vision. Oh, and that vision, we already have it, but don't ask us to tell you what it is yet. Now's not the time because weird behavior. And JT, you and I were talking on the phone on my drive back here from that press conference. We were trying to figure out what possibly could there be, what reasons could there be for them not to tell us the vision now? For because here's the deal. This team is currently as directionless as it may have been. Not ever. That's not fair. It's as directionless as it's been in a long time. And you have opportunities here in this press conference to reassure your fans, reassure the folks that pay your bills, that consume the entertainment. Guys, don't worry. There's direction here. We've got this under control. And they just didn't for some reason. Here were the three reasons we came up with, JT, and maybe I'm sure we're missing something. Maybe we're missing one. If folks in the comments think that we're missing one, chime in. Here are the three reasons why I think they maybe didn't share the vision. Honestly, this is all I can come up with. Number one, Ran doesn't know actually what the vision is. I don't think this one's true, but it's possible, right? Ran doesn't know, or maybe more possible, he and Amy are on the same page. Like he knows what Amy knows, and they both just aren't. They don't know yet. They aren't sure. Which, just then say that. You don't have to lie about that. Go, don't worry, guys. We've got a vision. If you don't have a vision, I'm not saying that they are lying. I'm just saying that's a possibility. Number two, the plan is to craft the vision around the hire, like I was asking, which is bad process. And they're lying about it now to appease us. Again, I'm not accusing them of being liars. I'm saying these are all the possibilities that I can possibly think of for why they hide it. The third is, I just came up with the fourth that I'm going to add on the fly here. The third is to avoid the criticism of the coaching hire, right? This is a team that has a test and they have a big question on the test right now of who's the new hire. And they're trying to answer that. But they don't want us in the media, us that are fans, they don't want folks on the outside judging them, grading them on their answer to that test question. If they tell us their vision now, and then they go and hire a guy that when we look into his background, look into the options, we think collectively as media or as fans, that guy doesn't really fit your vision at all. Like that's a bad job. This is depressing. We're going to rip you for this. They're just trying to avoid that criticism, which is lame and bad. I get the motivation on their part, but it's lame. The fourth reason, JT, and this frankly might be the most realistic option, knowing this Tennessee Titans team and the way that they operate. They see it as some twisted competitive advantage, right? Competitive advantage to keep the kind of team, and by proxy, maybe they think the kind of coach that they want, more of a secret, so that the potential hirees don't have leverage in asking for a bigger contract, so that other teams can't poach their favorite guy. It's not logical, but that is the fourth reason why that I think. So the four reasons that I've come up with, they think it's a competitive advantage, which I think is objectively dumb. They want to avoid the criticism of the coaching hire, just in case it's clear that their coaching hire doesn't actually align super well with their vision. Their plan is actually to craft the vision for this team around their coaching hire, which is bad process. Or four, Ran or Amy don't actually know what it is yet, and they're just lying about having their vision figured out. They're still working on it. What do we think? What do we think is most likely out of these things? Or are we missing something?
For me, I think it is avoid the
comments
criticism.
Think it's competitive advantage, by the way. The moment I said that, it was competitive advantage down the board.
I think Alex here says, I think you're a little too hung up on the vision. Had he answered, it would have just been coach speak. The vision is to bring a Super Bowl to Tennessee, blah, blah. Okay,
but that's what I'm saying. Say that.
Weird. That's fine.
And our buddy Nick Suss said that to me on the way out of the room. We were talking about the vision. It's weird that it is weird that they didn't give an answer. I'm not saying the answer had to be in depth. Nick literally said, and whoever in the comments, just Alex said, all you have to say is our vision is we want to bring a Super Bowl. This, like, that's our goal. Our plan is to bring a Super Bowl. We want to win games. That's the vision. Win football games, whatever that means. Say that. It's super easy. Again, the Titans created issues for themselves today that didn't have to exist. It may not actually exist, but they made them because they were acting weird about this. This is objectively weird the way that he handled it.
Yeah, I mean, it just like you could. I think it would have made the press conference feel just a little better than it did. Like,
give your fans some hope. They're really upset right now, or not. Some of them aren't upset. Some want a Vrabel gone, but they're.
Well, yeah, half the chat is super happy that
I know.
Vrabel is gone. So.
There's a lot of upset fans, and then the fans that aren't upset are, they want some little morsel of insight into what the future for this team might hold. Give them something that is cheap and easy and free and does not hurt you. Like, we want to win games. Our vision is to win a Super Bowl. Our vision is to hire the best coach on the market. Say that. Say it. It's not hard.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. And on that, I just have a couple points where I want to talk about what Ran kind of said. And the main one that I've kind of been just marinating on today is that it truly feels like this from Amy Adams Strunk is a total scorched earth kind of thing within the organization. And I think earlier in the show, Blast TV brings up a comment that I think I kind of talked to you about that may be what was kind of the final straw for Amy Adams Strunk in this one, in which he said Vrabel needed to go because he keeps hiring his buddies as coordinators. And I think that in a way that because in that interview that Amy Adams Strunk did with Mike Keith today, Mike Keith asked her, okay, what are you looking for in the next coach? And of course she goes blah, blah, blah. But I think the two most important things in that one was the main thing they're looking for in a new coach is some fresh new perspective, which sure, that's what it makes no sense to go get a new Mike Vrabel when you already had one at home, right? Like we don't need McDonald's. We have McDonald's at home, like that is the saying right there. Two, and the thing that she wanted to very much emphasize is that during the hiring process, it's going to be very important to see what kind of staff. Like she said, it was very important that he brings a staff to this team that can work very well. And I think that may be the biggest thing in the linchpin in all this is that Amy Adams Strunk maybe thought that because Mike Vrabel was kind of cultivating this thing where if you're his friend, it helps in getting you a position with this team when you clearly could maybe go find some better talent outside of the organization. And maybe try to, instead of getting a Jason Houtling and kind of bringing them in from here, go outside the organization here and try and get some young talent. And I think that may be the reason why she basically said, we're done with this Vrabel kind of era here. It clearly is not going to work anymore, and it's just going to be the same thing. And so she wants something new. And as she said, the NFL is always changing. And I guess that's kind of the direction she wants to go.
Yeah, and you know what? I think that there's a world in which you're right. I don't know if you're right. I'm not even sure if I agree, but here's the deal. Like, I think who they end up hiring eventually may, and slimy little dude in the comments says Tim Kelly and Todd Downing were Vrabel buddies as well as Ackerman.
And that's the biggest thing. He also talked about that when a new coach is hired, Rand basically said, the coach will be able to interview anyone on this staff. It does not mean that anyone on this staff will be back. Like
ineligible, right? Sure.
It's going to be a totally different coaching staff here on this team, and it might be one and done for Tim Kelly. It might be the final end of Shane Bowen. Charles London, who Will Levis has been working with, he might have to have that setback in his young career as he gets a new quarterbacks coach, and Charles London maybe moves on like that. So it's going to be very interesting how they go about this.
And Joey in the comments says, I'm wondering if before long we don't hear something came out about how he wouldn't hire or fire the right people, much like Malarkey got fired. It also, like, I'm not going to rule out any of these things. I think that we will get some insight into what happened based on who they hire, because if they, God forbid, if they go and hire somebody like Gerard Mayo, which I actually saw rumored today, and if that becomes a thing, that's next level, out of this world please check yourself into an institution levels bonkers. If there's any shred of truth to that, Amy and Ran need to change their mind immediately and then scrub the evidence and deny. But like, if that kind of thing happens, they go hire another defensive CEO type head coach, like you said, a Mike Vrabel at home, who's just like you traded out a guy that you knew was a good coach that was kind of like, you basically replaced Mike Vrabel without Mike to get rid of some of the Mike Vrabel issues. That's dumb and bad process and very bad. And that to me might indicate that you're right, that that's really all it was about. Another thing I came away from this press conference thinking about, and I think, listen, it's a stronger take than you usually hear from me, but I really do. I feel passionately about this. I think it would be wise for the Titans to hire a GM. My personal recommendation would be the guy who currently has the title of GM, but apparently he doesn't have all the power of the GM because it's becoming increasingly unavoidably obvious that Ran Carthon doesn't really have the powers of a lot of normal GMs, of your typical general manager. I think that's a real problem. Like, let's go through some of the things. A lot of GMs at least play some part in firing the coaches. Ran says he didn't. A lot of regular GMs lead the search for a new coach. Ran wouldn't commit to being that guy who's going to do that. Very dancing around, like very weird language there. A lot of GMs have final say over their roster. Like, they put together the team. He won't commit to having that power next year. He addressed that in today's press conference. A lot of GMs know why a coach is fired. Maybe Ran does, but he acted today like he didn't. Like, he didn't really. In fact, he listed a lot of reasons why maybe he shouldn't have been. A lot of GMs aren't able to are able to share what their vision is for the team, and he wasn't or wouldn't. That's not a guy that I'm not saying that he's Amy's puppet. I'm just saying there's a lot of things that he doesn't apparently have the control to do that a lot of GMs do. I think that Amy needs to give him those reins. And maybe there's some psychoanalysis that goes on here. Like, she had that situation with John Robinson and she's burnt by that because he did such a poor job. And now she's scared to really give somebody the reins. But you fired Mike Vrabel and you essentially sided with your GM here, right? Like, that's what happened today. If that's not an indicator of, okay, you believe in this guy, what is? You should give him the full controls of a GM. Like, I'm not saying Amy needs to have no say in some of these things in the hiring process, like all the vision of the team. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that it should be pretty clear who has the final say on a lot of these things. It should be the guy you pay very handsomely to be the general manager. Is that too much to ask?
No, I don't think so. And I think this was something that I shared with you and also was part of my initial gut reaction that I very much question the way Amy Adams Strunk and her operating group are doing business right now, because you can go back to literally this offseason where she put Ran Carthon and Mike Vrabel in a room and said, I'm hands off. You guys collaborate and you guys figure this out. And then all of a sudden, now she is the one that will be making the head coaching decisions, seemingly, because Ran does not want or will not say that he has the power over that. It seems like a lot of these decisions will come from Amy Adams Strunk. It is a wild, just like 180 on where kind of Amy Adams Strunk stands with this team and how she wants to operate. And so it's fine if you change your mind. Like, that is totally fine to do. But you have to stand on your ground at some point. You cannot continue to flip-flop back and forth with these types of things when the future of your own team is really in the balance, in the hands of this next decision you make.
And that's a perfect transition to, we're going to jump back in time again to our reaction to the Mike Vrabel firing. A couple of comments that I want to address here. Slimy Little Dude says Ran earned that job. What are y'all capping about? I don't think we said anything about here. We've repeatedly said he's the guy for the job. I just said I recommend them hiring him for the GM. Like, I'm joking saying that he doesn't really have the full GM powers. I think that he should. I think that he should have more power. Tighten Up Tony saying Amy ain't making the head coaching decision. Y'all chill out. Are you sure about that? She had a primary hand. Some would argue the NFL told her to pushed her to hire Ran Carthon, she was a big part of, if not, I mean, listen, Mike Vrabel was not involved in the hiring of Ran Carthon until the final round of interviews. She made the final decision on the GM because she hires the GM. Why do you think that's not going to be the case with the coach? When we asked the GM today, okay, you're going to be the guy making the decision, right? And he said, I'm going to be one of them, danced around that, and then repeatedly said, it's all about the vision that Amy has for this team, which to me, I don't know how else to read that besides this coaching hire is going to be made primarily based on the vision that Amy has for this team. That's not to say that she's going to have the final say, but it might, she's going to have a lot of power. That's all. Okay, slimy little dude saying it's folks in the comments. Okay, fair enough. But yeah, I think that is fair. So let's dive into the Vrabel reaction and talk a little bit about the mechanics here, and then a little bit about what's next, and then we'll get out of here today. A couple questions. Why wait? That was interesting to me, and you mentioned it earlier. I said we'd get to it. If there was nothing, and I talked with some folks in the media workroom, this may be the take on here that I ultimately, I decide, actually, I was reaching here. So maybe this is a reach, but I did think it today, and I still think there's some validity to it. If there was nothing more to this firing than Amy Adams Strunk being displeased with the football product and the coaching performance, I feel like Vrabel would have been fired yesterday morning with all the other coaches that got fired on the Black Monday of the NFL season. I feel like she waited 36 hours for a reason, that there's more to this story. Maybe it's as simple as she wanted to sleep on it, but here's the deal. I don't think this was a rash decision. I don't think it was a reactive decision. I don't think she made this decision in the past 36 hours. I think she's known for a little bit. Surely, right? I'm not going to assign this idea that she just decided on a whim to fire him. So if she came into Sunday having already made up her mind, or generally made up her mind about this, why did it take 36 hours to make the call? And if she didn't, does that imply that Sunday had some impact on her decision? And if so, why? Because that was a great Mike Vrabel rah-rah rally spot. They won the game. There was nothing about that, Sunday's on-field football product action that would lead anybody to think, oh, this guy needs to go. It's quite the opposite. So the timing is weird to me, JT.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you. It really just it caught everyone in both the Nashville media pool and nationally. It was a big surprise because usually on the day that it happens every single year, right? If there has to be something that really gave Amy Adams Strunk some pause, but in the end, she still goes with the decision that she herself said that this had been in the works, at least in her mind, for a while. So I'm with you that for Amy Adams Strunk, it wasn't a reactionary thing, but there seems to be something that truly changed in her mind.
Yeah, something did, and I think that something did. I don't know. Maybe folks in the comments can chime in on maybe that's a little bit of a reach. I'll move on from that because there were some veiled shots that we referenced earlier in this statement that I think are absolutely worth bringing up. This part of the statement that she released midday is the most interesting to me. Quote, "As the NFL continues to innovate and evolve, I believe the team's best position for sustained success will be those who empower an aligned and collaborative team effort across all football functions. Last year, we began a shift in our approach to football leadership and made several changes to our personnel to advance that plan. As I continued to assess the state of our team, I arrived at the conclusion that the team would also benefit from the fresh approach and perspective of a new coaching staff." That, to me, not only is a shot at Mike Vrabel, and we talked about this in the portion with Ran Carthon's press conference, the fact that he wasn't collaborative, apparently wasn't aligned with their vision. This reads to me like the Titans are going on their leadership, and this is a good thing to me. They're going all in on propelling this team into the modern NFL era. And if nothing else comes from the moving on from Mike Vrabel, I thought and still think that he's a very good coach. I think he's going to be a very good coach wherever he lands. I'm excited to see where he lands and what he does. That being said, he was kind of stuck in the past on some things. Wasn't perfect. There were some elements to him that you were constantly wishing, even when you were a fan of his like I was, you were wishing he'd do differently, would lean into more. I'm hoping that changes, right? I think this is a good thing. Go full cutting edge. Analytics department to the nines, young, innovative coaching staff, renovated offensive approach. Do all of it, right? Like if you're going to do it, do it. And it sounds like that's what they want. I think that has to be a big part of their vision that they lay out for us whenever they decide is the time. But I think that's a good development in all of this.
Yeah, I'm with you. And we're going to talk about potential coaching hires. It has to, even though in the interview, Amy Adams Strunk with Mike Keith, she kind of shot down the narrative that it's only going to be offensive minded, and that's what they're looking for. She said they're going to cast a wide net, which she does. But if you're going to make this Mike Vrabel, firing, you have to go offensive. And there are plenty of young, talented guys in the NFL who will be looking for head coaching jobs. That I think the Titans should really give a shot, because if you want to bring in a defensive-minded guy to be your football coach, well, you've already had one. So it has to be a full 180 and go offense, offense, offense.
I agree. Sorry, this is so funny. Albert Breer tweeted something that we've been talking. I mean, we've got a lot of flack today for saying that it was weak of Amy Adams Strunk to handle this the way that she did. And Albert Breer tweeted the same thing I'm just now seeing. He said, honestly, this is pretty weak. As we mentioned in the Tuesday notes on his Sports Illustrated column, Titans owner Amy Adams Strunk fired Mike Vrabel in a one-on-one meeting. It was her decision alone, yet she sends her GM out to meet with the media and only talks with the team website. Sorry, it's like that's just objectively, that's just true, guys. It is. And that's not local media being, man, we're mad that. No, that's Albert Breer agrees. I'm sure that most everybody in the media agrees. I think a lot of fans agree. It's weak. Quit, like put your love for this team. And I get it. I do. The inclination as a fan to want to buy all in on Amy and her vision here, because if you admit that what she's doing might be a big disaster, then you're admitting that things are about to get really dark, and that's scary. Like genuinely, I get it. I'm the same way with the teams I root for sure. But you have to be honest with yourself about this. You mentioned this earlier, JT. There were some things that there are some things that Amy has done that are really contradicting herself with her actions. When Strunk fired Robinson last year, that was a clear indication that she thought it was a roster problem. We've talked about that for a year now, and not a coaching problem, obviously. Roster over coaching. What changed, right? You alluded to it just a moment ago. The roster has mostly gotten worse since then. Was it a personality thing? Was there an interpersonal thing? Because you fired J-Rob mid-season, that clearly telegraphed the personal situation was poor. She believed in the coaching situation. Now you fire Vrabel and presumably give full GM control to your GM for the first time, which I said that earlier. I wrote that earlier. I'm not sure I agree with that anymore. But that clearly telegraphs that she believes the coaching situation was poor. Those two ideas don't really coexist.
Yeah, I mean, and it's okay, to change your mind. That is something that you can do, but that has to be the narrative going forward. I think it cannot go and flip-flop back and forth. This is where she needs to stand on it now, that this is the direction she wants to take. And you only get one shot at your next head coach in this coaching cycle. So it better be a good one, and you better make the right choice, I think. You have to be absolutely sure in your coaching hire. Otherwise, you're going to start to see this thing over and over again. And that's where you kind of get into that circle where it's hard to get out of.